Hey, welcome. You know, every great achievement, every big idea, starts out simple. But how do you actually get from that spark of an idea to a finished, successful reality? Well, in today's Explainer, we're breaking down the modern playbook that helps you do just that.
Oh man, we've all been there, right? You get that sinking feeling in your stomach when a project just starts to go off the rails. You're working your tail off, the team is putting in the hours, but somehow that finish line just seems to keep moving further away. So, what gives? What's the missing piece of the puzzle? And that, right there, is the key. That's what we're digging into today. See, the difference between a project that limps along and one that really flies, it almost always comes down to structure. It's about having a solid playbook to guide you through all the inevitable chaos. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, with the most fundamental layer of this playbook. It doesn't matter what you're trying to build, a new piece of software, a marketing campaign, heck, even a skyscraper. Every single project out there follows a universal life cycle. Think of this as the basic roadmap for any journey. First up, you've got initiation. This is where you ask the big question, should we even be doing this? And you get that official green light. Next is planning, where you get super detailed and draw the map for how you're going to get there. Then comes execution. This is the real heart of the project, where the team is actually building the thing. Now, while all that's happening, you've got monitoring and control running in the background. It's kind of like your project's GPS, constantly checking, are we still on the right track? And finally, you hit closure. This is where you hand over the finished product, and just as important, you look back and learn from the whole journey so you can do it even better next time. So you've got this 5-phase map. Great. Now you need a way to actually travel through it. You need a vehicle, right? And the two biggest, most dominant philosophies for that are waterfall and agile. And let me tell you, they are two very different ways of thinking about how to get things done. And the contrast here is just fascinating. On one side, you have waterfall, which is called the predictive model for a reason. It's all about planning every single detail perfectly up front. It's sequential, it's rigid, one step after another. But then you have agile, which is all about being adaptive. It's built for speed, for total transparency, and for shared responsibility. Planning and collaboration aren't just one-time things, they happen constantly. Here's a simple way to think about it. You'd use waterfall to build a bridge, right? The blueprint has to be perfect before you start. But you'd use agile to build a new mobile app, where you're constantly adapting to user feedback with every new update. And since so much of the modern world is fast-paced and unpredictable, it's worth taking a closer look inside that agile engine. Because really, it's so much more than just a process. It's a whole different mindset. These 4 values come straight from the original Agile Manifesto, and they just perfectly capture the whole philosophy. Now, it's not saying that things like processes or documentation are worthless. Not at all. It's just saying that Agile places a higher value on the things on the left. It's about prioritizing real human interaction, getting something that actually works into people's hands, treating your customer like a partner, and, most of all, having the flexibility to change course when you need to. So how does that philosophy actually look in practice? Well, Agile work happens in these short, repeating cycles. You'll often hear them called sprints. In every single sprint, the team plans a small, manageable chunk of work, then they execute it, they're testing it the whole time, they review the result with everyone involved, and then, this is key, they have a retrospective to ask, how can we do this even better next time? And then that cycle just repeats, over and over, delivering real value bit by bit and letting you adjust your course constantly. But look, no project, whether it's agile or waterfall, exists in a perfect little bubble. You have to operate within the constraints of the real world. And that brings us to 2 absolutely critical concepts that shape every single project: governance and debt. So, IT governance. Think of it as the official rules of the road for your project. It's the whole framework that makes sure what you're building actually aligns with the bigger goals of the business. It spells out who gets to make which decisions and how everyone is held accountable for their part. You can think of it as the guardrails that keep your project from driving off a cliff. And then there's technical debt. Okay, this is a huge one, especially in those fast-moving agile projects. It's basically the trade-off you make when you choose a quick and dirty solution to hit a deadline, even though you know deep down there's a better, cleaner way to do it. You're pretty much taking out a loan against your future self. And this analogy is just perfect, because that interest you're paying, it comes in the form of future slowdowns. You'll see more bugs, new features will take longer to build, and you'll have all this extra effort you have to pay back down the line. A huge part of modern project management is knowing how to manage this debt and deciding when it's actually worth taking on.
So you'd get the life cycle. You understand the different methodologies. You're aware of the real-world constraints. How do you actually prove to the world that you've mastered this stuff? Well, that takes us into the world of professional certifications.
The two biggest names in the game are PMP and Prince2, and the main difference between them is really philosophical. Think of PMP as a framework. It's like a master chef who understands the core principles of cooking and can apply them to any recipe. It really validates your hands-on experience. Prince2, on the other hand, is a specific methodology. It's more like a super detailed recipe with exact step-by-step instructions. That makes it easier to get started with and really popular in highly regulated fields.
And this chart just shows you exactly where those two different philosophies have really taken hold. You can see PMP is huge in the US, Canada, and a lot of Asia, especially with big global companies. Meanwhile, Prince2 is the go-to in the UK, across Europe, and in Australia, particularly for government and public sector work. So a lot of times, the right certification for you really depends on where you live and where you want to take your career.
So, when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway? A truly modern project playbook isn't about picking just one tool and sticking with it. It's about being able to skillfully blend all these different layers, having that universal 5-phase structure, choosing the right methodology for the job, and having the discipline to manage things like governance and debt. And you're doing all of it for one reason: to deliver real, tangible value. Because at the end of the day, no project plan ever survives first contact with reality. Things change. It's inevitable. So the real question isn't, can I avoid all the uncertainty? It's, is the playbook I've built tough enough and flexible enough to handle it when it shows up at my door?